Hi everyone, this is Ryan, and this video is for people with little to no experience of Starcraft. We're going to be going over things like brief history of Starcraft and how it's gone on to the esports scene, but mainly this video will be about when looking at a game of Starcraft for people who have no idea what's going on. Just going to touch over a few small things so that when observing professional games, if you happen to be with a couple of people who are watching it, you at least know what's happening and don't just go, oh my god, where are the orcs and stuff, as my auntie would say, and there are no orcs in Starcraft. That's the first point I will just say. So yes, kick back, relax, this video won't go for too long, and I hope you get something out of it.
In the distant future, 4 supercarriers from Earth crash land in a corner of the galaxy called the Koprulu sector. The survivors rebuild civilizations among the planets of this unfamiliar sector. New generations are born, as old ones fade into memory. Rival governments vie for power. Wars are waged. Life marches on. But the darkness of space harbors threats humanity could never have imagined or prepared for. And in the year 2499, Terrans learn that they are not alone. 2 alien species, the savage Zerg and the mysterious Protoss, make their presence known through terrifying acts of destruction. And life in the Koprulu sector changes forever. In 1998, Blizzard Entertainment introduced gamers to the war-torn world of Starcraft. This intuitive real-time strategy game featured a new graphics engine, cutting-edge cinematics, and an epic storyline spanning 3 campaigns. But behind the scenes, the road to Starcraft's release wasn't without its setbacks and obstacles. Starcraft was Blizzard's 3rd venture into the real-time strategy realm. Its design philosophy was heavily influenced by the company's previous RTSs, Warcraft Orcs and Humans, and Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness. The earliest versions of Starcraft even used a modified Warcraft 2 engine, but as development progressed, one thing became clear. The current engine was the game's greatest enemy. Vital features like burrowing and cloaking were almost non-existent. The final blow came at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in 1996, when a public alpha build of Starcraft was shown. Reception was cold. Some fans even dubbed the new RTS Warcraft Goes Purple and Orcs in Space. By the end of the convention, nearly all of Starcraft's game stations had been switched over to Diablo, the other title Blizzard was showing. The criticism was disheartening, but it inspired the game's designers to take action. Bob Fitch, Starcraft's lead programmer, made a bold claim to revitalize the game. He would scrap the current engine and build a new one in only 2 months. Fitch didn't disappoint. The new engine was completed on schedule, and it allowed the designers to shape Starcraft into the game they'd envisioned all along. They worked feverishly to balance and fine-tune Starcraft, sometimes working up to 80 hours a week. As is common during the development stage of many Blizzard games, change was the only constant. Units and game mechanics were constantly revised. Early versions of the Terran science vessel had legs, and at one time, dropships landed on the ground to unload their troops. Even the Zerg race was originally called Nightmarish Invaders. The long hours of polishing continued until the game's release on March 31st, 1998. Blizzard's goal was clear: create an RTS in the vein of their previous titles, a fun and engaging game that would capture the hearts of fans and provide endless hours of gameplay. But the fact remained that Starcraft's style and setting differed from Blizzard's previous games. The nagging question was, how would fans react?
Fellow Terrans,
The answer came soon after release. Starcraft rocketed to #1 in sales for its opening month and went on to win numerous Game of the Year awards. Starcraft was both familiar and new to fans of the Warcraft series. While the Warcraft games featured only 2 mirror image races, Starcraft allowed players to choose from 3 completely unique races. Each had different strengths, weaknesses, and playstyles. Starcraft was also Blizzard's first RTS to launch with multiplayer support on Battle.net, a critical decision that would lead to a new esports era for the company's games. But Battle.net also became a haven for creative gamers to meet and share custom maps, spawning an entire community based around fan-created content. The Brood War expansion pack was released soon after in late 1998. The game continued Starcraft's engaging storyline and added new units for each race. The expansion also included more 3D cutscenes, an element of Blizzard's titles that was immensely popular among fans. Previous Warcraft games also had cinematics, but this art form reached new heights during Starcraft's development. Blizzard founders Mike Morhaime, Frank Pierce, and Alan Adham made Blizzard's film team its own department during Starcraft's development, in essence, setting the stage for the future growth of cinematics that would emerge with Blizzard's later games. Morhaime, Pierce, and Adham recognized the impact these cutscenes had on Starcraft's overall story experience, a story that took on a life of its own.
protection it once provided is a phantom, a memory, with our enemies left unchecked.
Starcraft's gritty take on sci-fi struck a chord with gamers worldwide. Characters like the freedom fighter Jim Raynor, the psionic ghost Sarah Kerrigan, and the heroic Protoss Tassadar became iconic figures in the minds of fans. In a 2003 GameSpot poll, fans voted Starcraft's thrilling finale as the best ending of any game. But the influence of the Starcraft universe didn't end with the game. After Starcraft was released, a number of novels, comics, and manga were published to enrich the game's universe and characters, and explore what it meant to be Terran, Protoss, and Zerg. Most gratifying of all, however, was the fact that gamers continued to play Starcraft long after its release. Some people believed this was due to the game's epic story. Others maintained that Blizzard's focus on balancing units and fixing bugs was the key. In truth, there was one clear reason for Starcraft's longevity: the online community. The community grew at an incredible rate immediately after Starcraft's release. A year into the game, 4.5 million active users were on Battle.net, waging war with the Terrans, Protoss, and Zerg. An online juggernaut was born, and its strength came from the millions of gamers who supported it. To nurture the growing community, Blizzard held its first Battle.net tournament, featuring $20,000 in cash and prizes shortly after Starcraft's release. As other esports tournaments grew in number and popularity, Starcraft became a staple of online competition. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. Starcraft's success wasn't confined to North America. It flourished abroad, most famously in South Korea. In 1999 alone, 1 million copies of Starcraft were sold in South Korea. The country's professional gamers took Starcraft to an all-new level of competitive play. Their dedication and support cemented Starcraft's role in esports for years to come. The inventive playstyles of Starcraft's pros fueled the game as a spectator sport. Eventually, TV stations such as OnGameNet and NBC Game were broadcasting official Starcraft matches live to millions. As a testament to the game's popularity, over 120,000 spectators flocked to a Starcraft competition in Busan, South Korea in 2005. While esports tournaments grew internationally, Blizzard began its own string of BlizzCon and worldwide invitational conventions. These events provided a venue for pro gamers to test their mettle, but they were also gathering points for the community, places where players could meet each other, talk with developers, and experience new Blizzard games. BlizzCon and the Worldwide Invitational weren't exclusive to Starcraft. They focused on all of Blizzard's titles. But the 2007 Worldwide Invitational in particular would prove to be very memorable to Starcraft fans. It was at this convention in Seoul, South Korea, that Mike Morhaime unveiled the long-awaited sequel to Starcraft.
It is my honor to present to you Blizzard's newest game.
여러분, 블리자드의 새로운 게임을 소개합니다.
Developers had been hard at work on StarCraft 2 since the release of Warcraft 3, but the project was delayed for a year in 2005 so the team could help with World of Warcraft. Despite any delays, developers pushed forward with the project. As with the original StarCraft, change was the only constant during development. One of the game's new units, the Thor, underwent many design phases before the final look was achieved. But unlike its predecessor, StarCraft 2 used a completely new engine from the beginning of development. It allowed the designers to create content unimaginable in 1998. One of the most noticeable differences in StarCraft 2 is the groundbreaking campaign, where a player's choices shape parts of the story. Carrying on StarCraft's epic saga, familiar characters have returned, some of them voiced by the talented actors from the original game. Among them are Robert Clotworthy as Jim Raynor, but you left out the part where you walked on water, and James Harper as Arcturus Mengsk.
Descent will only slow our progress.
But a whole new cast of characters has also been introduced in StarCraft 2, and along with them, a host of exciting new actors.
Everybody simmer down.
As with the original StarCraft, much work went into streamlining the multiplayer aspect of the sequel. For feedback, Blizzard connected with fans through battle reports, podcasts, and live gaming sessions at conventions and tournaments. A completely new BattleNet was also developed as a place for gamers to meet, share their custom maps, and test their skills in online ladders and tournaments. More importantly, the updated BattleNet was created to support the online community that played such a pivotal role in the original StarCraft's success. In the world of StarCraft, 4 years have passed since the end of the Brood War. The Queen of Blades and her Zerg have remained silent. The Terran Dominion, under the rule of Arcturus Mengsk, continues to build its power. Jim Raynor carries on the fight against tyranny. But years of being a hunted man have taken their toll. Outside of the game, over a decade has passed since Blizzard introduced the Koprulu sector to the world. A decade of competitive play, custom map making, and reliving the struggle of the game's characters again and again. The next phase of StarCraft's history begins now, and fans around the world all have one thought on their minds.
Hell, it's about time.
So many babies! I'm Sean Day9 Plot from Day9 TV, and we're here at MLG Anaheim to get a sense of what the esports community is like. How'd you get into Starcraft 2?
I played Starcraft 1 since I was about 14.
That's professional StarCraft. That's something that they can do that I can't do.
Do you consider yourself the best Protoss player in the world right now?
Of course, why not?
Thousands of fans will spend the next few days watching the best players in the world compete in a number of tournaments, including the headline event, Starcraft 2. For the past 15 years, the esports community has rallied behind this fast-paced, real-time strategy game that pits two players in the heat of futuristic warfare. It not only tests one's speed and agility, but also their knowledge of strategy and tactics. Since StarCraft's inception in the late 1990s, alliances formed to create dream teams of professional players who have dominated the tournaments, as countless opponents from across the globe have vied for the title of StarCraft champion. The community that is built up around these tournaments has produced not only a thriving fan base, but also several professional StarCraft leagues, numerous esports commentators, and an independent event scene that has spread worldwide. It all started when Blizzard Entertainment decided to make a new real-time strategy game called Starcraft. Starcraft development began in 1996, and while it was a new universe for Blizzard Entertainment, it was based on all the lessons learned from their previous RTS games, Warcraft and Warcraft 2. After some experimentation, the company honed in on a clean, isometric game that pit three warring races on a futuristic battlefield, where they must collect resources,
Not enough minerals.
construct a base,
I read you.
build up an army, and then find and destroy their opponents. Whether choosing the scrappy Terrans, ferocious swarming Zerg, or the powerful enigmatic Protoss, players fight for strategic positions on the map, looking for any opportunity to take advantage of a strength or an opponent's weakness to get ahead in the battle. But when the expansion pack for StarCraft 1 was released, Blizzard developers began noticing a change in the player community.
Paul Sams, our COO, was out in Korea, and he came back with pictures of people dressing up like Hydralisks and Protoss units and Terran units, and suddenly it was on a whole nother level.
When the original StarCraft was made, it was designed to be a great game, but it wasn't necessarily designed specifically to be an esport. That was something the community showed us what it could be, how it could be done, and they made that happen.
I remember thinking back then that StarCraft was like an interesting game to watch for sure, but it hadn't quite reached esports level. But when the Koreans started first playing it, guys like Slayers, Boxer, Nada, all those guys, like, yeah, it blew my mind. Those guys took it to a whole nother level. They made it a professional occupation.
Watching these players compete with one another at this level that we had not designed the game at, really. We never tested that, and these guys' hands moving over the keys and moving the UI so much. I just thought the game was gonna crash, you know?
These professional gamers were a unique breed. They brought a skill and focus to their game that most other players simply could not. For example, in StarCraft, your APM, or actions per minute, is a quantitative indicator of how fast you can issue commands on the battlefield.
Yeah, and his keyboard.
Man, he's
may
got
have
so much
stopped
APM, he
responding.
broke his keyboard. That's
Gonna do
hardcore.
a little bit of emergency surgery.
Professional players could maintain up to 300 actions per minute during an entire match of StarCraft. That's 5 keystrokes every second for matches that can last for over an hour.
StarCraft is absolutely a game of inches. It's not like when you get blown out, you were actually that much worse. You just made a few mistakes that you shouldn't have made, and now you're gonna get to lose maybe big.
As StarCraft's popularity grew in Korea, new players came from many other countries to compete for the glory of being the best in the world.
Watching these guys play is absolutely inspiring. You know, in many ways, they're all our favorites. Like, it's just amazing to watch these guys play.
But it wasn't just the pros who were pushing the limits of the game. PC bongs, or gaming cafes, sprang up all over Korea, giving amateur players an opportunity to compete with each other, strategize, and learn the secrets of the pros. This fueled the rise in popularity and skills of the players, and drove StarCraft esports even further into the global mainstream.
It was really great to see everyone, really rally behind the players, get really excited, and that's when I feel like esports really started to take off outside of Korea, where it had always done pretty well.
In 2007, at the Blizzard Worldwide Invitational in Seoul, Korea, fans were in for a surprise with the announcement of Blizzard's newest title, StarCraft 2.
드디어 올 것이 왔군.
Are you ready for StarCraft 2?
StarCraft 2 was released in 2010 to much praise. While it continued the same storyline from the original StarCraft, it would also soon become the standard RTS game for competitive esports.
With StarCraft 2, we looked at the game from the beginning and said, okay, we want this to be an esport. We want to make it successful. So, let's focus on things like readability, esports balance, on esports features.
The game was built for this. The game was constructed thinking about things like broadcast, observer mode, being able to tell the story of what's going on, not just in-game, but also then latching into the historical stories of the players.
But StarCraft 2 has really been able to reach out to a bigger audience, a broader audience. More sponsors are getting involved, more companies and restaurants, and lots of additional interest is coming into StarCraft 2.
I think with StarCraft 2, it has shown that it's really expanded out to become an international phenomenon.
I said to everybody in the company, I was like, StarCraft 2 is going to be our flagship game. It's the first time we've had something that's got the built-in community and the tools that we're going to be able to do exactly what we've always dreamt of.
Over the last few years, there have been a number of star players to rise from the ranks and show off their particular skills, strategies, and unique playing styles to become StarCraft champions.
There's people out there whose full-time job is to play StarCraft or to prepare StarCraft or whatever. And it's just amazing to imagine people are creating careers out of this game. And it's extremely humbling.
It really has changed my life. It's given me a job. It's given me everything I wanted. Like, it's allowed me to travel to the US. It's allowed me to travel the world.
And our dream was to travel the world, to see different people, and to compete on the biggest stages. And now in StarCraft 2, we're able to do that. I'm in Anaheim now, and I'm going to be in Sweden soon. It's a dream come true.
Fruit dealer. Here's this guy who was very passionate about the game, practiced it a lot, and basically was helping his family pay the bills by selling fruit. His name, Fruit Dealer, came from this story, and he, as a pro gamer, made a bunch of money out there, got a chance to fly out to the US. All these things came from his skills in playing this game.
All of the energy these guys are pouring into this game and pouring into the entertainment that they're creating around this game is absolutely amazing.
And there's one other thing that's guaranteed to be fantastic, DJ. Wait. Just a little strategy game by the name of StarCraft 2!
Pro players aren't the only ones to benefit from the rise in esports. Professional shoutcasting has become as popular as playing the game itself.
Well, StarCraft kind of became my life. I moved to Korea to pursue commentating, actually. After following the Korean scene, I knew that StarCraft was what I wanted to do with my life. So I just continued on and on and on.
I made 800 videos in a year, so I don't know the math on that. It's a couple videos every day for an entire year. I absolutely loved it, and it's what I would spend almost all my free time doing, because I totally enjoyed it. It was a hobby.
It was almost by luck, I don't know, an accident, a happy accident, that my coaching was all done via audio. Eventually one of the teammates said, hey, you should do this like it's a sportscast, and I did, and sort of that was that.
So StarCraft's actually who I am. It's really transformed the way that I see the world, and that's from the way the game works now. It challenges me, and then also outside of the game, how that's impacted the way that my life is set up.
Since the countdown has begun,
I am so
stoked.
It's game time.
Live events have seen a tremendous rise in attendance across all continents. There are now dozens of live, major esports events taking place around the world each year, with the largest tournaments attracting as many as 20,000 or more attendees.
You think about the first events that we saw with StarCraft 2, where there's a good amount of people, but then the people in the community were like, well, gosh, I want to be a part of that. And then they came, and then they told their buddies, and they wanted to be a part of that. And it truly seemed like the snowball effect.
Just the energy that happens in these big forums, when you get all of these gamers together to watch a game they really love, is just, it's absolutely amazing.
Last year at MLG Anaheim, I went and I got to watch live, and it's like standing room only. There's so many people there watching StarCraft. The Boxer versus Rain game went for over an hour and a half.
and like there was this epic battle, and everyone was on their feet just screaming at like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is going on.
To see that many people excited about StarCraft 2 and esports, and then to feel like I was part of it, that was epic.
And that's the thing, is this ability to create these moments where you say, I was there when. I was there when, you know, Huck won after the Koreans had been involved. I was there when Boxer played his first match in Anaheim.
At the Spring Arena 1, it was MKP versus Dongregu. It was game 7, and it was tense. And the spawn positions were not favored for Dongregu, so the casters were like, oh no, he's gonna be really upset.
I mean, let's talk about these spots. When Marine King finds out where DRG is, he is actually just going to dance, man.
And then he goes for this Baneling bust. It's a really high risky strategy.
Oh my God. Here we go. This is probably going to be decided right this second.
The whole bar is holding their breath. They're like, oh my God, is the Baneling's gonna work?
DRG, amazing play here, breaking through.
And then it worked in DRG won and beat MKP for the first time.
Everything just exploding. Just a moment. Oh, and DRG, he breaks the curse. He is overwhelmed.
DRG has slain a legend.
The changes that happen in the strategy across the game, it's all them. You know, we put in units and we try to make them clean and solid and have a clear role, but we have no idea how anybody's actually going to use any of these things exactly. We make some guesses, but they frequently show us what is possible. I think one of my favorite game moments would be Nesty's use of sort of advanced spine crawlers in a game against a Protoss player where he blocked a fast expand by putting creep in front of the Protoss player's base, and I had no idea what he was doing. I don't think the casters knew what he was doing.
This is important. What's happening? What is he doing? Try to predict it, because I actually do not know what he's doing.
And suddenly there was these spine crawlers all in front of this next. It was absolutely awesome.
Oh my God!
Oh my God,
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
This has a trillion IQ.
I've never seen this before in my entire life.
This game has so much depth and so much going into it that you didn't just sit down and play. It's not a DDR where like you're gonna dance your feet to a different song. This is every single game is independent event where you're playing against, sure, maybe a similar opponent, but there's so many different factors that go into it that every game is individual.
You know, baseball is always baseball. And baseball at Yankee Stadium between the Yankees and the Red Sox is always that game, but it's not. Each game is new and fresh. Of course, all of the drama associated with a match between two players, whether it's your favorite player, your most hated player, or whatever, is incredibly exciting, and that's always fresh. You don't know what's going to happen. You're excited to see the result. It's a sport in that sense.
That's what any competitive activity, any sport, that's a beautiful thing about this. And every single time we have these events, we create those moments, both for the people in the room, the thousands of people who show up, but also the hundreds of thousands who tune in.
With the help of new technology, millions of people have viewed tournaments in over 200 countries. Major League Gaming alone broadcast over 15 million hours of pro circuit content in 2011. In this same year, Blizzard hosted 7 regional tournaments and televised the finals at BlizzCon with thousands of live spectators.
I think that the growth of esports in general is simply related to changing tastes in media. This generation is into demanding the exact content they want and not settling for anything less. The internet, streaming, YouTube VODs can provide all of that to them with a huge amount of variety available. They can pick their exact taste in commentator. Yeah. You can't even do that in real sports.
We can get these games easily all over the world, and you know, people like MLG and GSL, they do this all the time where they get, you know, people from 180 countries or something insane watching these broadcasts.
500,000 people tuning in at one time during the day, millions of people over the course of a weekend, 175 countries. It's just, the scale is there now because that passion that was evident in those small pockets of community in the beginning those were the seeds, and they've grown and they've spread, and now you see so much more of that.
Just as the Starcraft community helped promote esports in the past, fans today take the lead in transforming local bars to create Barcraft events. There, Starcraft 2 matches litter the screens to create even more excitement in local communities.
I want to say hi to Andrew from Star Nation at the Austin Barcraft. What's up, guys?
Having beers, having cheers, and watching some amazing StarCraft 2.
I think you could really see things change once Barcraft started to happen.
The idea that, you know, you probably could have told someone 6 years ago that you're crazy, like that'll never happen, but look at what, you know, there's like 60 Barcrafts just this weekend.
You know, when there's a big tournament, I usually look and see if there's a local Barcraft here in Irvine, and and it's a lot of fun watching the games live with other fans of the sport.
There's a ton of different types of people that come to these. There's the hardcore StarCraft fans who are staying up till 4 in the morning, and then there's the more casual crowd who just love the idea of watching StarCraft and having a beer.
It's just a good gathering place. Everyone shares a common interest.
Eventually I just met all these guys, and so I kept up to date with Warcraft and especially Starcraft after that.
It's a great feeling to be around those who love the game and can come out and support and watch all these great games that some people might not have access to.
Ultimately, the sport grew because of the passion in the community and the experiences they shared with one another.
The esports community is, I think, at the height that I've ever seen it.
You know, the community has always been the forward pushers, and I think right now the community realizes, you know what? As a collective, we've got a lot of power.
I think it just comes down to straight up passion from the community. Without that, you can't really have esports. It's not possible.
Yeah. StarCraft and Blizzard games, in fact, Blizzard games in general wouldn't be where they are because it's the community that kind of guide Blizzard. It's their feedback that allows Blizzard to then kind of know what is going to make this the best game.
That's what it's all about. It's bringing the community together, supporting them, and giving them, something that they can rally around. Something that they can all come together around and say, you know what, this thing is a great representation of something we love.
There's a secret cult of people out there that want to see this just get as big as it can possibly be. Guys like Tasteless and Artosis and GSL, guys like Day9, and then just gamers everywhere, guys doing barcrafts. We want to change the world. We want to see if we can make this a thing that is something that is the sort of the entertainment for the 21st millennium. And we feel like we're on the cusp of doing it. We feel it, kind of smell the potential for victory here, smell the potential to break into the mainstream, get to a point where I can turn on ESPN, on a Saturday night and watch, a great game of StarCraft. Wouldn't that be absolutely awesome?
With an amazing, creative, and proactive esports community, the future looks very bright.
Well, we just had an awesome day here at MLG Anaheim, and with a few more matches to go, we're all about to tune in. So wherever you are, do enjoy Heart of the Swarm and keep spreading the esports love.
So now you should have a good insight on what StarCraft is, where it's come from, and where it's heading towards at the moment. It is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, esport in the world, with the numbers growing in the thousands by the day. Now, I'm not just saying this, it is actually true. I was watching last night, now this was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was watching a live feed of a tournament of StarCraft matches, and the channel actually froze and crashed and was down for 5 minutes till they rebooted the servers because it got over the maximum amount of people allowed on the servers, because it was something like 50,000 people watching the feed live, and that was just this one feed, and that was at 1 o'clock in the morning. So when you think of it like that, that's like if a whole bloody stadium of Suncorp Stadium was watching like a game of football or something, for instance, at 1 o'clock in the morning. Do you think Suncorp Stadium would still get 50,000 people at 1 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. But, I mean, esports is growing, it is getting massive, and it's not slowing down. So, who knows where the future of it will lie. So, for now, we're going to go into some quick things on a StarCraft game, what it looks like, what to be looking for, and if you happen to be watching a StarCraft game because you're with people who enjoy watching it, or you just happen to be there, I don't know, I'm just going to show you a few things about the game so you don't have absolutely no clue of what's going on. Now, as you can see here, you can select between 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4 and FFA modes. The professional esports scene is predominantly 1v1, one player playing with their best skills against another player of their best skills. 2v2, 3v3 and 4v4 games are not as competitive and aren't really played on the esports scene at all. They're more for just casuals and people who just want to play for fun while they're at home, and it's just like any other video game, it's not that serious, it's just chilled. Whereas 1v1 is where it gets really serious and where the pro gaming's at. Now, people get ranked into different leagues, Alright, so the way it works in a tier system is you play 5 games of StarCraft and then people get ranked into either from bottom to top, Bronze League, Silver League, Gold League, Platinum League, Diamond League, Master League, and finally Grandmaster League. And as those leagues get higher and higher, there are less amount of people in those leagues. So there could be there'd be millions of people worldwide in Bronze League at the moment. But then getting into Silver League, you'd have like less than a million. These are just example figures. And then Gold, you would have like maybe half of the amount of silver people, and it keeps going down the tree like that. So the higher the rank you get, the less amount of people there are at that same tier with you. So the majority of StarCraft players would probably actually be in the Bronze League division, and it is very hard to get out of. The Grandmaster League scene, if you're in Grandmaster League, you're seen to be as a professional gamer. It means you're in the top 200 players in your region. Now there are 4 regions throughout the world for StarCraft. You have Europe, North America, Korea, and Southeast Asia. And Australia, of course, would fall under the Southeast Asia region. So really there's 800 Grandmasters in the world, and if you're in one of those 800 Grandmasters, you'd be considered to be a professional gamer, and if in Master League, you wouldn't be too far off becoming one. So now we're going to go into a few replays just to show you some features of the StarCraft game. Okay, so this is how a game will start out. Alright, it will start out with, in a 1v1, it'll start out with 2 bases. One base owned by one person and another base owned by the other. Now in StarCraft there are 3 different races people can choose from, and they normally stick to that one race and play all their games under that one race in order to be very good at learning their race's special abilities, as every race has different units, different abilities, different health, damage rates, all that kind of stuff with all of their different units. So you have a different selection of weapons at your arsenal depending on what race you choose. So pretty much this is an example of Protoss, which is me. So this is a game where I played recently. I played this game yesterday, I think. And this is a Protoss base when it starts, and this is a Terran, which is a human base when it starts. Terrans are pretty much a balance of ranged, not really melee, ranged melee, air, ground. They're pretty much very versatile and a bit of everything. Protoss are very, very high powered, and their units are very expensive, but each of their units is extremely more powerful than, say, one-on-one against a Terran or Zerg unit. Zerg are aliens. They're not in this game because it's a third race that isn't used by either player, and Zerg rely on strength of numbers because all of their units are extremely weak, but with enough of them they can overrun you, and it's just sheer numbers. So Zerg are sheer numbers, Protoss are having enough individual units that are super powerful, and Terran is somewhere in between. This Terran player, he was some random guy that I just got paired up with. Okay, so first of all, some courtesies when a game starts. People will say GLHF. Well, most likely people say GLHF. That means good luck and have fun. It's just a form of respect that's kind of expected from every gamer when a game of StarCraft 1 begins. Now, with StarCraft is a game of base management and army management, but it's very based on economy. Everything has got to do with money. The more money you have, the bigger the army you can make. The more workers you have, the faster your money collection rate, therefore the more army you can have. But workers cost money and time, so if you have lots of workers early on in a game, you're cutting units, army units, that you could be having earlier on in the game. So it's all about getting perfect balances and selecting the right army, when to stop making workers and to make other units, that kind of stuff. At the beginning of a game, regardless of whether you're Terran, Zerg or Protoss, you will start with 6 workers, alright? So when you're looking at this overview, the bottom right down here is the command card, which is where orders are issued. Replay functions such as pause, play, rewind, all that kind of stuff. This is the bank of both players, Terran player, Protoss player. Supply count, which is how many people are in the army and the maximum they can have at that time. Minimap down here, which is used a lot, and here current selected options and a portrait of one of the units currently selected. Now, for StarCraft to kick off, people need to mine minerals. So the workers mine these things and then send the minerals back to the base. Alright? Every time they do that, they send 5 minerals into the bank. Alright? So I'll start the game. So instantly they go to mine. GLHF, good luck, have fun. It's automatically expected that most people do this, okay? So as these SCVs, these are called SCVs, and these are called probes. As the SCVs or probes, or drones in the case of Zerg, are putting minerals back to the Nexus or the command center or the hatchery, the bank money goes up. And as they do that, these facilities then make additional workers. Then once you get enough money, you can start constructing a base out of different buildings. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go through every single thing about StarCraft. There is 1,000 different things about StarCraft I could tell you to completely understand. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to briefly touch over a few things. So when you're watching, you know what's happening. And you're not just going, oh great. Okay? So this is just building supply depots for Terran, and pylons for Protoss, and overlords for Zerg, which are little flying guys. They increase the supply cap, which is the maximum amount of people can have in their army. You have to keep making those in order to make your army bigger. Now there are 2 types of resources. There's not just minerals, but it's also Vespene gas, which are created from these things, which you have to build little factories on, and then get some of your workers to start mining from them. So once you get a substantial number of workers mining from your minerals, you can then start getting gas. Now as you can see here, this is called scouting, where I've brought one of my units into the other person's base just to see what they are doing. Alright, so when you've been playing a lot like I have, you can tell just by looking at someone's base what strategies they're starting to head towards. Now, if you see another building like the main building constructed near more mineral fields and Vespene geysers, it means they're expanding. And expansion means that someone is going to make an additional base to get income twice as fast, and then going on to a third base would be 3 times as fast, right? There's bases with mineral fields and gas exhaust pipes around the entire map. So as you can see here, additional pylons have been created. And Zealot, this is a army unit. Now, these guys can attack, but I'm just using them to defend my base at this point in time because I don't want them to see what's happening inside my base. So here they're making barracks and factories which produce more units. These are Marines, the standard infantry soldiers of the Terrans. Okay, so now I've got 2 bases up and running. Okay, now the whole idea of this game is balance between economy, army, and all the other factors, like being able to don't have your army caught out in the wrong position at the wrong time, that kind of stuff. Not always does the biggest army always win, but most of the time the biggest army wins. And in order to get the biggest army, you need to not make units early, but spend the early money on making additional workers to make your later income better. But you need to not stop making army units completely, like here how I'm making some, because if they attack and you have no units to defend, you're in trouble. Now as you can see down here on the right hand side, it tells you how much supply, how much minerals and how much gas each of these units takes to create and what each of them does. But you don't have to know what each unit individually has to do because there are around 100 different units in StarCraft. So I'm going to speed this up a bit because this game went on for 15 minutes. Okay, so he's moving across the map with a small squad of Marines and a Marauder. So he's going to put some aggression on. Now he's building his second base a bit later from mine, which means that he is going to be at an economic disadvantage. But he cut the economy to make units quicker. So he has army supply slightly larger. He has 18 supply worth of army, whereas I only have 14. Yet I have 4 additional workers than him. Alright, so if I can defend this attack, then it means that I will be ahead, because I have more money coming in per minute than he does. But if he gets me off guard, and he manages to counter the units that I have, then he will be at the advantage, because he'll be able to do enough damage that it could kill me, or kill a lot of my workers, putting him in front. So here is an engagement. This is what an engagement in Starcraft looks like, a small skirmish. And I'm putting down force fields, and pretty much I have just killed a whole squadron. Now it's very self-explanatory, I don't need to tell you how it happened, but pretty much you can just see how they all died and how they are running back. And now you can see I have more army and more workers, and that puts me at a great advantage. And now I'm moving out. So I have 2 bases operational, whereas he's only getting his second one started, and I've now gone a bit greedy and gone on to a 3rd base. These are siege tanks. If you ever see these things, you know that the person running against them is in trouble, because they are very, very powerful and kill the enemy force very quickly, but they cannot move once they're sieged into the ground unless they unsiege, which takes up time. So pretty much when you see these things, people go like ooh and stuff when they're watching games if they see siege tanks, because if someone runs into siege tanks, it never ends well for them. As you can see here, I lost most of my army running into those siege tanks, so I had to withdraw. But I'm comfortable, because I have a 3rd base nearly up and running, I have 2 bases fully operational, and I have enough gateways to produce units. Now here's another case of units being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I accidentally ran my units into them and quickly had to withdraw, as he's making an advance, alright? And I've gone for a little side attack here, so the whole game is about strategy. It's not about brute force, alright? So as you'll see here, I'm just running in, having a look at what he's got. I'll drop a force field here so he can't run up the ramp and chase me. And I'm just having a look at what's going on. And he withdrew his entire army because of that little attack. He thought there would be more there. But if you have a look, those few units would not have been able to stop his army. So if he would have attacked, he actually could have won the game and killed me there. So the whole game is very tricky. He made one mistake, and it's going to end up costing him the game, because now I've got 3 bases running, and I'm going to have enough production facilities to constantly create a massive army, and I'll be able to create army units faster than he can. His army supply is higher, but look at the worker supply. The income for me as blue is higher than the income of red, and you'll see as the longer that goes on, the more of an advantage I'll be and the more of a disadvantage he will be at. So more production facilities in my base. And remember, it's not 1 for 1. One Protoss unit is worth about 2 or 3 Terran units and about 4 or 5 Zerg units. So even if the armies look about the same size, a Protoss army is always more powerful than a Terran army, and a Terran army is always more powerful than a Zerg army if they're identical sizes. And here should be the final engagement. This was a very short game. And he's running in, he's got a medevac trying to heal his troops, but it's not going to be enough. He's even sieging his tanks, which is good, but it's not going to be enough to defend against all of the money I'm receiving and the amount of army units I have. And you'll see how much faster his army dies compared to mine just because of the pure strength of Protoss. GG means good game. Whenever a player says GG at the end of a game, it means they've forfeited the game because they know there is no possible outcome from this point onwards where they can win. To win a multiplayer game, a player has to technically destroy every single opposing building, but this never happens. Realistically, 99.99% of the time it doesn't happen because there becomes a point where you know you've lost your entire army, their army is too massive, you know you can't recover in time, so you know it's over. So instead of prolonging the game another 5 minutes for no reason, people type GG, which means good game, it means they've forfeited the match, and it means that they then surrender, and then shortly afterwards they'll quit the game and the other person is instantly given victory. This just saves time and it's a courtesy. Also, if someone types in WP, it means well played, which is often when someone did not expect a certain move or strategy, but it was employed against them and they lost to it. And replay complete, that is the end of the game. I left the game and I won, pretty much, because I took a risk and it paid off. Pretty much because I chose to go economy early, he chose to go army early, and I had just enough units to defend, and of a side strategy I did, distracting him. He pulled his army back when he probably didn't need to. He could have killed them with units that were only just spawning. Spawning means appearing out of nowhere, just coming onto the battlefield. Units that were spawning could have probably killed off those couple of units easy, and he could have actually killed me. But because he made that mistake cost him a game. So as you can see, Starcraft is a very close game where tiny mistakes will win or lose the game for certain people. Now, I can't explain every factor of Starcraft to you. It would take forever. You'd actually need to play the game yourself, which I know a lot of the people actually watching this video will never do, because I'm not aiming this video at people who actually play or want to play Starcraft. This is aimed at people wanting to have a small understanding of what Starcraft is, where it's come from, where it's going, and tiny concepts of how to follow a game and what's happening. So I hope you've learned something, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you.
I'm Artosis alongside Apollo, and we're about to cast a really nice match coming up.
Very nice match coming up, Artosis.
How many varies?
2.
Sounded like 1. All right. It's going to be Huck against Gumiho. Huck has been just tearing through this tournament.
Yes.
Really, really impressive.
Yes.
Gumiho looking like a top 5 Terran in the world right now.
Gumiho is amazing, and the only game he actually lost was against Lenok, of all people. But you can kind of understand that, being on the same team, traveling here together. But, you know, I think a lot of people entering and watching this series are kind of expecting a Gumiho win here, for sure.
Yes, Gumiho, without any doubt, is the favorite going in, but Huck definitely makes a lot of what you can call upsets, I guess, because a lot of people predict him to lose against someone the level of Gumiho, but he definitely knows how to beat players of this skill.
Well, this is going to be our last round of 16 game here before we enter the quarterfinals. Are we going to have Huck, a former DreamHack champion, move through, or the debut star, Gumiho, do so?
All right, up here in the top left, give it up for EG's Huck.
Playing in space. And down here, his debut here in Europe, or European tournament, and debut at Stockholm, a debut at DreamHack. It is FXO Gumiho. He was cruising through his WCS career group, Artosis. 2-0 and 2-0 against Hyun and Rain. 4-0 total. Think he's going to be cruising in this series too?
I think he probably is. You know, Huck is going to come at him with some wild stuff. He probably doesn't hit that often, but overall, Gumiho is pretty solid. Even though he does some risky builds, he has little, you know, fail-safes built in a lot of the time where he's going to be able to stop cheeses if he sees them quick enough.
Well, Huck has actually been performing really well here. Was very happy to have made it to the round of 16, and Twitter yesterday went round of 16 exclamation mark times 20 or however many he put there. So very happy to be there after a very, very tiring day yesterday. But he did manage to pick off a couple of good players, such as Grubby. He, went through his third group stage, or his second, but the tournament's third, without losing a single map.
Yeah. And that's wild because Huck has had a lot harder time recently. He just hasn't had the results he used to have. It seems like he's been in a downward spiral, but, he did pretty well at IPL, and now here he is doing even better. So, Huck is definitely a player you have to always consider as a possible champion.
All right, I'm going to ask an obvious question here. Are we going to see a gateway timing from Huck?
Well, normally we do. That is true, but I'm not completely sure about it. He mixes up his play in PvT reasonably well. I haven't seen a lot of his PvTs lately, but he's using a lot of warp prisms in them at the moment. Makes more immortals than most Protosses, and I think we're probably going to see a lot of gates pretty early too. I would not be surprised. I don't think he's going to go into like a very standard macro game. Maybe a macro game, but not like a standard way into it.
Well, Gummyho here is opened up with Command Center first, followed by 2 barracks. This build here is actually, I've been practicing it, working on it, looking at the weaknesses and strengths of it here. And especially when a Protoss player doesn't scout it on a big 4-player map like this, I think Gummyho is going to be fine against potentially early aggression. The kind of 2 danger things that the Terran player thinks about here is blink all in or Stargate play.
Yeah.
None of these are going to happen because Huck's completely clueless here. So just because of that, he hasn't scouted.
Yeah.
Gummyho's set up really nicely for this early stage.
Yeah. And, look at this. A Twilight directly after that Nexus. Will he throw down a Robo as well? Let's give it a second because DT drops are very popular right now.
Well, we'll find out in a couple of seconds' time here. He does have enough gas banked up. He needs to see if he can find enough minerals to do so.
I guess he's not going to go for that, but what do you think we're going to see? Is this going to be a 2-base blink? Is this going to be a DT rush? Or is it going to be something totally crazy like Quick Eye Templars?
I feel DTs.
Yeah.
Autosis. I mean, as soon as you said it, that's the first thing that popped into my mind as well.
And it really looks like it. There you go. Dark Shrine going down. If he gets damage done, then this is a fantastic opening. But if the DTs get stopped dead in their tracks, the follow-up aggression by Medivacs will kill Huck most likely.
The problem here, though, I feel, is that Gummyho has scouted nothing and hasn't been scouted himself, so he's going to have a good engineering bay timing because it's just safe.
Yeah.
And that good engineering bay timing is going to be in seconds' time. It's roughly 5:45 to 6 minutes, and there it is down immediately here. So with this good engineering bay timing, it should, if he builds a turret immediately, which he absolutely should be doing if he's opening up Command Center first with 0 information on this game, building a turret on the natural is common here. It's normal. So I'm interested to see how well this can do because there isn't a fast robot, there isn't a warp prism been made to deploy these straight in. Can he break through?
Well, I think he's going to warp in and try to send them up, but I think your analysis is perfectly spot on. He should be making a turret really soon. But he hasn't started it, and that Dark Shrine is going to finish, and there's a pylon right near his base.
I think he's misreading this Autosis here because he's added on a couple of bunkers here. He saw the pylon on the right-hand side, which is usually an indication of a gateway timing. That's what Huck is all about here. And with no turret coming down, let's see if he can nail a scan, though. Does he even have a scan available?
Well, we'll see in just a second.
Oh, he sees it now, though, at least. He's got to lift that supply depot, and he's not going to get into the main base, that's for sure now. And he's going to isolate all of the DTs down to the natural, and a turret is building here.
Yeah, and he does have a scan just now, and will clean up this first DT. With the turret going up in the natural, he should be able to get that up. The DT will kill that SCV, but should be able to finish the turret without losing it.
All right, well, let's have a look in there. It does finish, and DT gets out just about. So let's have a look at this. I'm not sure we can call this a success. 2 scans, maybe an SCV or 2 here. How is Huck? How is he? He's got 38 probes to 33. He doesn't really have good, useful technology in this game, I don't feel.
No, he doesn't. And thing is, if you really look at it, no forges, right? He's got a Robo and a Twilight and a Dark Shrine. He doesn't even have a lot of gateways, which is something you see a lot out of Huck. So I don't know what his follow-up is here. I think he has to go directly into Colossus, but I think that that's going to play into Gummyho's hands, too.
All right, an obvious question here for a lot of people too. Is Huck going to be able to survive once the medivacs come out? And we're clearly going to see Gumiho move out here. Stim is done, +1 is done. Can Huck even survive the push out here?
You know, the frontal push is something that shouldn't be too hard for him to stop, along with Nexus Cannon and, you know, Immortals, anything else too. But the Medivacs, this is one of the most droppable maps in the entire game against Protoss, and I don't know how he's going to split up his army enough to actually deal with this. He has very few gateways, very few units, and his splash damage is still a ways off.
Well, it looks like we're going to have a drop of 2 Widow Mines go to the main base, while, you know, potentially pulling left or right, depending on where Huck's units are. He's going to have units, Gumiho that is, at the front door, and this drop at the back here, which is going to be spotted by this observer, so good observer positioning here by Huck. But he must realize that this is coming. His forces are very limited. Look at that, only a handful of units.
Oh god, this is going to be a little bit brutal. And in fact, Gumiho dropping out some Widow Mines here. And, well, that's a pretty reasonable Widow Mine. But this frontal attack now with hardly anything down here, and he's going to do a lot of damage.
He's used that Mothership Core already for the Photon Overcharge, and well, those 3 Zealots get down fast, and here comes another one being used. The Immortal down immediately here, and down go the Sentries as well. This is quite successful already without really, you know, picking off anything massive, but the units he picked off.
That is very true. We also have quite a few Hellbats actually on the way. Already some are out. So very likely we're going to see Gumiho start doing some Hellbat drops. And once again, there's 3 Stalkers, 2 Zealots, and a Colossus out for Huck. This is not something you're going to be able to cover 2 mineral lines against Hellbats with. Or even, you know, the frontal push is going to be strong as well. Gumiho has a lot of options here, whereas Huck has very few.
And Huck hasn't actually had the time to research anything, or upgrade, should I say, until this very point. Just starting +1 attack here is quite far behind Gumiho, who's approaching 1-1, and also a plating upgrade for his Hellbats here, which is going to be rather difficult for Huck to break down.
That's going to do pretty well against Zealots that, you know, are a long ways off of their +1.
Double Medivac splitting up. Observer may have seen one. I'm not sure if it saw the ones going to the main base here. Now we're going to deploy in 3 Stalkers. Well, that's not going to be enough here.
No,
this is going to be actually...
He might just lose those Stalkers because Concussive Shell is about to finish, so they aren't even going to be able to run out of there.
Wow, 2 go down, and a couple of probes here as well. Hellbat drop onto the natural, and well, a couple of probes are going to go down here, obviously. Dark Shrine almost picked off. A Stalker goes down as well. There it is, picked off. I'm not sure how many SCVs were killed in this. Only a couple of kills on each of the Hellbats. Oh god, 16 total so far in this game.
Ooh, this is getting really, really bad for Huck. He's, you know, if you look at what he's got going for him, it really isn't much. He's going to have Thermal Lance, so that's nice. But his production isn't that big. His unit composition isn't really that strong. He's lost a lot of gas units. He's lost a good amount of probes. And Gumiho's going to be taking a 3rd base and continuing to work on his unit composition.
Oh, another drop into the main base here is going to get picked up immediately as that is going to be dealt with. And on the natural, 2 Colossus should be fine to deal with that. As Huck is going to be able to... Well, actually, look at that, 2 Vikings getting quite a bit of damage done onto that single Colossus there.
That's right. Those Hellbats really want the Zealots to come up. They don't even have charge yet, and they will be fried in a matter of seconds, but he's going to lose his Hellbats.
Okay, just nothing to bring these Vikings down. He's got no Stalkers, 3 Sentries tickling the Vikings, 2 Colossus for 2 Vikings there.
It's a pretty decent trade, I think.
It's a very good trade there. And this is just... All right, it's going to be brutally honest here, but, you know, Huck's just getting hammered from the get-go here. DTs didn't work, the follow-up is hurting him, this is hurting him, and he's falling further and further behind in this game.
You know, it is a little bit painful, and here Gumiho comes. This might actually be a game ender. Charge is not done. Slow Zealots not going to do so well against the kiting that's coming in.
Gumiho going to see if he can bring this game to his favor. A lot of Zealots in there, only 2 Hellbats. There's not too much there. Well, there's Stim activated 1-1 upgrades for this Bioforce, and with the Hellbats doing quite a bit of damage there, it looks like Huck will be able to survive for a little while longer, but he just doesn't have any splash damage here. He's got no Colossus, no nothing.
And he's hemorrhaging all his expensive units. He's lost a lot of Colossi already this game. Look, he's back down to 1 Sentry. He just keeps on warping in Sentries, and they die.
Well, Huck is in a lot of trouble because the 3rd base is about to be taken for Gumiho as he picks up and lifts off, and he's going to start to mine from that location. A lot of barracks are coming down, and with the, well, a lot of barracks down already, sorry, and we are going to see more in a couple of seconds' time. But with +2 attack and +2 armor, Gumiho is just getting stronger and stronger.
He certainly is.
I'm having trouble seeing where Huck can, claim an advantage back into this game.
Well, his tech path just isn't something that can gain advantage right now. He doesn't have that splash damage that's so crucially needed. I like what his idea seems to be here, though. He's focusing really heavily upon Immortals. And if you look at the way that Gumiho is actually producing right now, he's producing 2 Marines at a time and 3 Marauders and then some Hellbats to fill in. And heavy Immortal play is actually going to do reasonably well against that. So I think that's kind of his plan. Huck might just go for an attack after this Immortal pops out. His +2 attack is about to finish. He's getting 2 more gates. And he might just go and try to kill off Gumiho now. And I think that this is actually a smart idea.
Well, he did just hit +2 now for his units, but +2 likewise is going to be done for Gumiho here, as well as that +2 plating. Seconds away, actually. Yeah. +3 has started for Huck. Gumiho coming in here to trade off a couple of units. And he's going to pull Huck down that ramp. Huck doesn't really want to go yet. But, well, Gumiho, with the 3rd base being taken and more production coming in, his army's only going to get bigger from this point.
Yeah, and Huck doesn't really have any way to safely take a 3rd base right now. His army is a little bit scary right now. But Gumiho realizes he just has to walk back, not get caught by force fields, and he should be fine.
Well, we're about to have a fight here, one way or the other, whether Huck starts it or Gumiho. And Huck got a lot of Zealots at the back there, caught off, actually. And look at the positioning here. Good force was actually coming down for Huck.
Yeah, he traps a lot of the Hellbats, but they do go ahead and kill off all the Zealots in a matter of seconds. And look at that, all the expensive units dying once again. GG!
Yeah, one-sided there, win there for Gumiho.
Yeah.
Would you just look at that game and be like, well, that DT opening just didn't do anything?
Look at that, I feel. You can be really greedy early on as well because the Nexus covers that ramp so well, and the Nexus cannon becomes very powerful because of that. So I think there's a couple ways he can go ahead and try to get an advantage.
Well, he's definitely playing one of the harder players in the round of 16, that's for sure, as Gumiho looks to move on and on towards the final. He's got one sight, and that's 100% the final here. He didn't come to finish in the round of 16. He didn't come to finish in the round of 8 either. He's come to take our money here at DreamHack and take that first place prize. Well, we are loading into Belshir Vestige, and let's see what's going to happen here.
All right, down here in the bottom left, he needs your support, so make some noise for E.G. Huck.
And his opponent is looking absolutely fantastic here. It is FXO Gumiho, the Towel Terran. Is that I saw a red towel.
Yep. He's got his towel.
He's got his towel.
He can't win without the towel. That's where all his magic powers are.
Okay. Are we going to see Command Center first on Belshir Vestige's smaller map?
We could. I actually want to see him go for a Reaper opening, though, to be honest, because I think after playing that first game, he can look at it and say, oh, okay, he's going to be taking risks against me. Gumiho is a big target on his back. He's just performed so brilliantly lately in StarCraft 2 that there should be cheese coming for him. Who wants to play this guy in a long game? He's going to kill you. So, yeah, I think the Reaper expansion is about as safe as you can get right now in TVP.
Yeah, and there comes the barracks. So I agree with you that that's going to be the best choice there. 12 barracks and 12 gas come down here for Gumiho. And we'll see what he can achieve with this early Reaper. And the standard follow-up, or what is standard as of recent with Terran to follow this, is with the gas that you mine to build that initial Reaper, as you keep saving, you get the factory down, you get a starport down, and then you follow up with a Widow Mine drop. There are a couple other transitions, but this seems to be the most popular here.
It's really solid. The Reaper, basically, if you keep it alive and scout well with it, it can scout out anything that can counter that drop or counter your build overall, such as a Blink Stalker all-in. Because otherwise, this is going to force Huck into a robo, which makes for conservative play overall. And if it's conservative play, it's going to get to a longer game, and Gumiho is going to be at an advantage in that long term.
Well, this time, Huck does send out a probe to scout. He goes in, spots everything. He already knows that a Reaper's coming here, and he's going to go immediately back. What's the best way for Huck to deal with the Reaper here is, a lot of players do like to get a Zealot upon seeing this, but he hasn't. Is he just going to go Chrono Boost on the Gateway for a fast double Stalker, Mothership
I think
Core?
So. Yeah, he's already got a good gas count overall, only 2 probes on each, so he's going to have to really decide, does he get the Okay, so he is going to go double Stalker, I think. Because if you get just one Stalker, then you will never kill the Reaper. The Reaper will scout everything forever. So, you know, that's fair enough. Why not?
All right, so behind this, the reactor has come down for Gumiho, and the factory should be following this up here, just as he, well, the command center, sorry, then the factory, as he prepares himself to do that standard follow-up. And interestingly enough, the SCV's already seen that probe go down there, looking for that expansion play. Whereas the Reaper sitting tight on the natural, on the first cell Naga tower here.
And he hasn't started a second Stalker, so this is actually a little bit of an issue because now the Reaper's going to run in the main base. I would not be surprised if he gets a probe kill, maybe even 2 here.
All right, well, let's see. Second Stalker is now being credit boosted out. He goes in and just pops back out immediately and will escape.
You know, of course, he can't tell when that Stalker started. He can't tell that that was not actually about to pop out and be able to flank him. So a safer move there by Gumiho.
But he hasn't scouted anything yet. He went in and went out immediately. So, you know, whatever Huck's going for here, Gumiho has absolutely no idea. So he's going to have to go back in. He does have 2 ways of scouting right now, one with the Reaper and one with the SCV. And where's Huck's Stalker? Okay, it's there. And, well, he's going to see everything now.
Yep, and he sees that Robo. No big surprise there. It's a much safer build. And now I've got to ask you a question, Paul. What do you think Huck does from here? He's kind of been forcing the Robotech that we were talking about before. Do you think that he's going to go for the longer game, or do you think we could see one of these Immortal pushes, or perhaps a Colossus all in?
I think that if... Well, let's look at it in Huck's perspective. If we look at the fact that he may not be able to compete with Gumiho in the later stages, I'd have to go with sides towards a Mortal or Colossus play here. I'm not sure if he wants to go later on. He's going to have to add these 2 gateways on to deal with this drop, because I think that's his priority right now, is expecting this drop to come. If he can deal with this drop well, then from there on out, he can start to make decisions on where he wants to swing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if he can deal with that very well at all. We're actually going to have a good amount of Widow Mines for this medevac. He could get up to 3 if he wants, but a lot of the time you see it with just 2, and sometimes some Marine pressure with it as well.
Well, this Reaper's gone in and scouted the double gateway here, so he knows that Huck isn't being overly greedy. There are some builds where he can go 1 straight up to Colossus immediately, or double Forge, or whatever the non-standard approach would be for Huck to try to gain an advantage through just simply his build order here. But we are going to see the medevac come out. Widow Mines are going to be used. Huck does have quite a few observers out already. He's got 2 and a 3rd one being built. I suppose 1 in each mineral line and 1 out to scout what his opponent's doing. Do you think he has the best setup to stop this drop from happening and dealing damage?
You know, I think he does. He's got plenty of Stalkers out right now at 4. He has that Mothership core for a Nexus cannon. And, of course, he does have a single sentry out, which is kind of just in case something crazy happens, he can force field his ramp. So I think he's got everything he really needs here.
All right, well, there's an Immortal being made and a Forge.
Oh, that's interesting. The Immortal and the Forge. So that means he is going to play for the longer game here. We'll see what he ends up wanting to do as far as unit composition goes.
Well, we're all about to have this medevac into the main base here, and Huck's actually moved his Stalkers away at the worst time possible here.
And, well, not killing too much quite yet.
That's 4 kills there. 1 on the natural. That's going to go down immediately. 4 kills, though. He can immediately, well, he should be able to boost out there.
Yeah. No problem there. Getting right out. And you know what? Huck actually moved away right at the time he expected the medevac to come, because the starport was just slightly delayed for Gumiho. So Huck actually knows his timings very well. And Gumiho actually used that against him, whether on purpose or by accident.
Well, he still has 2 medevacs active, 1 towards the natural, 1 going back home here. Behind this, we do have tank production. How do you feel about tank production here? It's a little bit, you know, unorthodox.
Well, you know what? Knowing what Huck is known for, which is a lot of gateway pushes, that's actually going to be far superior to Widow Mines in that situation, I would say. You know, if any sort of crazy blink play comes, if just a big gateway attack comes, siege tanks are one of the best ways to deal with it, and it's a style that Gumiho has used a lot in the past and has been very successful with.
Well, no robotics bay has been thrown down. He's looking at getting this +1 and just consistent Immortal production. Sitting at 47 and another one being built here with the Chrono Boost going down onto the robotics facility without splash damage. It's clearly going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with Gumiho's army here.
Yeah, Huck is definitely a player that we see skip the splash damage to get a few more units out quite often compared to other pro gamers. So we'll see if that works out for him. You know, he does have a lot of immortals, and that can always be helpful.
All right, well, Stalker has seen and is going to stop this SCV from building this third base, but we do have Gumiho, more importantly, moving across the map now with +1 and combat shields in his sight with finishing. But I think Hux, with the added tanks, which is actually taken away from the amount of Marines and Marauders we're seeing here, Huckers should be okay to take his third base shortly. I don't really see too much of a threat coming with this army.
Yeah, this army can be scary at times, but he's facing someone who has 4 Immortals right now, and plenty of Sentry energy. I really can't see this push doing anything. In fact, I think Gumiho can't either, and that's why he's turning around.
All right, so he's going to go around, but Huck's actually changing here. He hasn't thrown down this third Nexus yet, despite having quite a few minerals in the bank. Another Immortal has started here.
That's a lot of Immortals.
Does he have a plan on taking a third base? Like,
I'm not sure.
Oh, look at all the pylons on the right-hand side of the map here. And another gateway coming down.
And he did get the +1 attack, which means that he wants to be aggressive with the Immortals. So we'll see what he ends up choosing. And in fact, he's going to pick off that siege tank, not taking too much damage so far.
Well, this is going to be interesting to see if Huck's going to be able to pull this off with 2 more gateways coming down. He's definitely looking for a kill. 3 tanks. Marines do have +1, attack only. There's quite a few medivacs out, though. Is this breakable?
Well, the siege tanks are going to be picked off immediately by the Immortals if he can get up there. But, of course, the Marines, when Stim finishes, would just chow through that army. So Huck has to be careful, but this is some very powerful pressure he's putting down.
Well, that's quite a lot of Marines, even without Stim. That's quite a lot of damage being dealt there. Half the Marines do get caught on the other side here, but 4 tanks behind this. Is Huck going to be able to break through? This is incredibly close.
Well, you know, the Immortals doing good damage to the tanks there, but Huck is losing a lot, and the Marines starting to clean everything up. An overextension there by Huck, I would say.
All right, it's 96 applied to 92 here. Stim's about to finish, and I feel, oh, nice pick up there by Gumiho. Going to try and target down that Immortal. Does get it. Huck, though, just slammed against the wall here. There's hardly any options for him now.
Yeah, he's trying to micro stalkers against Marines that are about to have Stim, and that is not going to go so well. The Immortal coming up and doing some damage as well. But I don't know what Huck's long-term plan can possibly be here. Sure, he has that third base, but what is he supposed to do from here with this type of army composition, Apollo?
Yeah, nothing. Autosis, I don't really see him doing anything here. As there's 3 bases down for the turn play. Granted, Huck does have a third down himself, but with Stim now activated and +2 and +1, very close to finishing for Huck. I mean, for Gumiho.
Yeah, 2-1 against just 1-0. Well, he is going to have 1-1, so not as bad. You know, just 1 upgrade up. Something that Protoss can deal with for a little bit at least. And Huck goes right back into Immortal production. Huck likes his Immortals.
Yeah, he's got 2 in there and a third one being built too. I mean, how do you make of this player? It's such a weird style for me to see that a Protoss player just not using splash damage at all here.
Yeah, this is... You know what's kind of interesting about it is he continues to be aggressive and pick off pieces of Gumiho's army to keep the supplies kind of low overall compared to where they could be, which allows him to not have splash damage as early to fight against. It's kind of like a weird little balance that he's using that's like kind of working, but again, I don't see long-term how this is going to do its job.
Oh, we'll see. Oh, dear me. Stalkers at the front there. 2 Forces come down, but there are a couple of leaks in those holes, and they do break through, and, well, that's a lot of Stalkers going down for not much in return there. With the Twilight Council coming down and the Mothership Core going as well, I'm interested to see when is Huck even going to try and add in some splash damage here, whether it be, you know, just going straight towards Storm here potentially, but more units going down on the right-hand side. Gumiho, any fight he takes, I don't see it losing at all.
Yeah, and in fact, definitely some miss micro there by Huck, and GG, Gumiho taking that series 2-0.
2-0 indeed, and
tough matchup for Huck.
Definitely. I mean, Gumiho was rated up there with Polt and Leenock to be definitely favorites to take the tournament, and he does wipe out Huck there 2-0. Quite fast and in dominating fashion.
Yeah, he really does. You know, this is definitely a guy that might end up winning this tournament.
Yeah. Well, we've got our top 8 now.
Yes, I guess we pretty
just
much
about.
do.
Maybe
as soon as the other guys finish their match.
Almost got our top 8.
Yeah.
As Gumiho goes over and shakes hands with Huck before returning back to his PC. Any thoughts on that match there? Or series, should I say?
It was a bit one-sided. Huck had a very weird style that we're not used to seeing. I do wonder how it does against players a little bit less than the absolute top end that Gumiho is. You know, what if it was one of the lesser Terran programmers, like someone like, what if he does that against Quantic Center? How does that look? I would love to see it.
Well, Huck, a former champion, falls at the round of 16 here, narrowly missing the round of 8 where the prize money begins, but Gumiho does bank himself $1,500 there. And I'm not too sure if we're going to be having a winner's interview or not. We'll have to have word of that in a couple of moments' time. So,
yeah,
that's kind of it for us for round of 16 for now.
I think so.
And just looking at the clock, I think we got roughly 45 minutes to an hour before the round of 8 starts. So we do have some time for you to go get some food and so on before the show actually begins here at DreamHack, and we see the final 8.
That's right. I guess it's about 1 hour and 10 minutes before that final 8 does begin. So guys, we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break, but make sure you join us for the final 8. We'll be back then.